All right, welcome back to part 5 of the post E3 State of Gaming podcast, and we're going to talk about both EA and Bethesda in this one. And we'll start with EA, and I guess we could start with how they started, with a bunch of drummers and Tom Brady jerseys, because that's what we watch E3 for.
Man, yeah, they really focused hard on sports this time around. I mean, they always have
more so than other times.
I think it's really interesting that now they're starting to implement campaigns into their sports games.
So last year they had it with FIFA, and now they're like, all right, apparently that was a big success. So now they're
apparently, because now we're having it in Madden, and we're getting it again in the next FIFA, and it's a sequel. Like, now there's going to be like a franchise of this storyline between, like, I wonder how far they're going to go with this. Are we going to get it in NHL, or are we going to get it in any of the other sports games, like NBA?
I'd say if it succeeds well in Madden, then definitely. Like, if it continues to succeed, I don't see why they wouldn't eventually incorporate into all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly a sports fan, but I do find this a really interesting approach, and I have to wonder how this is going to impact the future of sports games. Are we going to see sports games always have a campaign mode now? Like, is it going to be a cinematic campaign, or is that just going to be a sort of, it's a fad where it's going to happen for a bit and then it's going to die out again? Because I feel like sports games do need something to help them, like, establish themselves. Because, I mean, between like the last 20 years, like, it's just incremental changes at this point, and sometimes they go backwards when they remove a feature or something. I mean, I don't play a lot of sports games, so this isn't exactly my area of expertise, but I do think that a campaign is a really good way of maybe enticing people who wouldn't necessarily buy a sports game to get one. So people who have like maybe a bit of an interest in sports, maybe they want to live that, like, I'm trying to remember the name of some famous sports movies, like We Are the Giants. Is that what it's called?
No.
We Are the Titans.
We Are Titans.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I see. This is how little I know about sports, but so I think if people want to live like some of those success stories through their game, this is maybe a good way of doing so.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, it's not exactly the most crazy interesting thing that E3 could show us.
No.
I think really what took the stage for me was when they brought out a Way Out by the makers of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Yeah. I think that was a really original game, and I mean, people have mixed feelings about whether it'll succeed or not, but I think I would love to play a split-screen game, which already that in itself is something a bit rare. A split-screen game where two people could do two completely different things at the same time. You have one person in a cutscene, you have another person messing around, and where I thought this was just a prison escape game, there's a whole other outside prison part, and I was like, I thought that was totally original, first of all, and second of all, I think it has tons of potential, and it could be a really fun two-player experience, which is definitely something we're lacking these days.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight of their, the surprising highlight of their conference. I mean, obviously Battlefront, we'll talk about, was the big deal, but yeah, no, seeing EA actually be willing to take chances on a more unique game was definitely good to see.
It was pleasant, absolutely.
Also, I liked what I saw from the Battlefield DLC that they showed off. Like, I felt like that looked pretty cool, like the going to the Russian front and all that. But yeah, besides that, the only real thing to really mention, besides all the awkward moments.
Oh man!
Like, speaking of the Way Out, the guy who came out talking about it screwed up his own name, and then you had that YouTuber talking about the Need for Speed. I think.
Oh no, that was like. This poor guy, like, that's like one of those E3 moments, that in like 5 years from now, when you look up cringy E3 compilation, he's gonna be there, because like he didn't just mess up like, I don't even want to just talk about the cringe of E3, because there was a lot of cringy things, but this is always like there's always one worst part. This was by far that moment where I don't even understand what's happening. Like, I get you can get some stage fright or something, but like I feel like he could have just improvised and said like, oh, this is Need for Speed, like, and this is the guy who made it. Like, you could just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
But he just messed up thing after thing. Like, he couldn't get, like, the words out. I don't know if there's a teleprompter that wasn't working or something, but he couldn't explain what he was there for.
Froze,
This is Need for Speed, and it's a great game, right? We all love Need for Speed, and yep, well, here's the guy who made it. And then he messes up that guy's name up, and I was like, oh, boy. Yeah. Like, he just says his name. I'm going to say James for argument's sake. He's like, oh, this is James, the guy who made the game. Hey, Nick. And I'm like, oh man, he said Nick. Like, it's so painful.
Yeah, it was rough, but hey, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, that moment felt like it lasted forever, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't too long until we actually saw some Need for Speed gameplay, and it really feels like they're embracing the Fast and Furious I guess style of
Yeah.
gameplay, because like it feels like if Need for Speed were to just make a movie. Well, they did make a movie actually, and that was basically a worse Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
It's just really funny because now if Fast and Furious ever makes a game, is it going to be a worse?
A worse Need for Speed.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really funny how they're not even connected, but they're exactly the same thing in just different media. So, I think I don't know. I'm not really interested. I kind of like some more of the classic feel of the older Need for Speed games. Like maybe make it just an arcadey, actiony racing game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing more. But now having a bit of a campaign and jumping, hijacking cars. Actually, the hijacking is probably the only thing that I think is kind of neat, and I wonder how that's going to play into the gameplay. But I don't know. I don't really feel like sometimes when you see a movie and you think to yourself, man, I wish I could play that as a game. This is like I feel that sensation when watching Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it was fine already. I didn't think they needed to try and like add those features into it. Like the dialogue was a little bit cheesy, and I mean it's hard not to be campy when you're being like Fast and Furious. But I guess we won't really know for sure until that game comes out. Because this is kind of a new direction, right?
Yeah. See exactly how much of that is actually in the game. Like
exactly.
Is that a more unique moment, or is that like how the game is going to be?
Mission. Yeah. So aside from that, did we even really get much else aside from Battlefront, or is it just like sports, Battlefront, A Way Out,
Battlefield,
Need for Speed, and yeah.
So Battlefront.
Yeah, Battlefront. We saw a lot of Battlefront.
Yeah. Well, that was clearly their. I mean, it might as well have just been the Battlefront conference.
Honestly, I almost feel like it should have been, because like I feel like that was the most successful part of their conference.
Yeah.
Aside from A Way Out for me, because like Anthem, they didn't really show. Anthem was more of a tease.
Yeah.
But Battlefront 2, like, I would have liked to see, like, more campaign, but whatever. I think they did fine showing us a lot of the gameplay mechanics with multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I think it looks visually pretty impressive.
Yeah, visually it's stunning, and it's good to see that they are going to have the prequel timeline. How much content we're going to have, we'll see, but
true.
Anything is better than nothing.
Though.
Yeah, free DLC is good. Darth Maul looks great.
Of course.
Oh yeah, overall it looks good. Like I mean, even the first Battlefront was a good game. Like I played the beta, it was enjoyable. It's the lack of content and the expensive DLC that sunk that game.
You have to flush it out by paying for basically another game.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that EA actually listened to that, and they followed suit with Titanfall 2, and they're like, you know what? Here's some free DLC. And I know people might rip on them and say, like, oh, you're just doing the same thing you did between Titanfall 1 and 2. But I think that's learning a valuable lesson, and there's no other way of looking at it other than it's benefiting the consumer. Like, I almost want to buy Battlefront 2, even if I'm not that excited for it. I almost want to buy it just to reinforce that business practice, because giving free DLC is like, we're going from having overpriced DLC, we're skipping over cheap DLC and just going straight to free DLC, and for me, that's more than I can ask for. Yeah. If other games follow suit, that'd be a dream come true for me. I think that's great. Imagine Destiny or Call of Duty doing that. It's nuts. I would love it.
Well, Call of Duty, who knows? Maybe they will, if with how well it seems to be catching on. I mean, Battlefield still hasn't done it yet, but we'll see next Battlefield 1.2 or whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going next.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this is great, and I think I love watching the droids again. Hearing them go Roger, and like the different classes. It was like that was one of my favorite things. I love playing as the droids in the original Battlefronts, and it just felt great to see them again, especially with better graphics. They almost look better than they did in the movies, which is what I find really funny. The map looked big; it looked expansive. The progression of the game mode was really good too. Honestly, there's nothing really bad to say. The air combat looked fine. I want to see some more, and I honestly think I'll just buy that just to help out with the free DLC.
It looks a lot like what the first one should have been.
Absolutely.
But we'll see how many maps we have at launch. Like, there's still some things we need to see, or at least I need to see before I can say, okay, they've redeemed themselves. Because if it's on a lot of maps, and we'll see how like unique the different classes are, and how many heroes there actually are in the end. Because we've seen Yoda, Darth Maul, Rey, Kylo Ren, and we can assume Luke, Boba Fett, Han Solo, Leia probably, but how many more prequel heroes are we going to get? Like Kiandi Mundi or Ayla Secura, are we going to get those? And so we'll have to.
I wouldn't mind seeing. Oh man, I always forget this guy's name. The guy with the 4 lightsabers.
General Grievous.
Yeah, General Grievous. Oh man,
Yeah.
like he's just someone who'd be fun to play as. Like having
Yeah.
a four lightsaber wielding a robot, a droid, would be really cool.
So yeah, so we still got to wait to see on that, but yeah, so far it's looking good.
All right, do you want to move over to Bethesda?
Yeah, let's talk about Bethesda. And I mean, they didn't do anything really surprising. They did basically everything anyone could have predicted. Evil Within 2.
I have to say the only thing that did surprise me about them showing Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein 2 was that they were coming out so soon. They're both coming out in October.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. Just in general, you could say that with this year, there was a lot of games with very soon release dates.
That's coming out right now. Like I love that. Like that's something I wouldn't mind if they
Yeah.
continue that trend because.
And,
I mean, I'm okay if they say a game's coming out in a while off, just to say that the announcement, like Elementary Prime 4.
Yeah.
But a game like Wolfenstein 2, which has been rumored long enough now, just to say that it's coming out in October and just dropping a bunch of video for like a cinematics and gameplay, it was like, I was really satisfied with that. I think Evil Within 2 was more in the rumor realm, so actually having a concrete announcement for that was really nice. And having another horror game to add to that really, really dry, bland library of horror games right now is great. I was happy to see it, and it looks more surreal. It looks a bit different. It almost looks like a soft reboot at this point. Like it's a more personal story because they're really addressing a lot of the complaints with Evil Within 1, which was, like your character is very flat. He's very two-dimensional. Now it's a personal story. It's about him and his daughter, and the horror seems so like super. I mean, it's supernatural, but it seems like really bizarre and like so surreal. And I love the art style, like the art direction, and it allows for more creative monsters to be implemented and really scary moments. So Evil Within 2 is, I'm not even kidding. That's like, I don't even need to say anything else. I'm already sold, 100% sold on that. I don't think there's any way they can mess that up if they just completely rip off the gameplay from the first one.
Yeah, it's definitely a good game to have shown off. But again, yeah, like somewhat surprising, but not like, I mean, it'd been rumored for a while.
Yeah, not beyond
we
Evil
knew,
2.
Yeah, we knew it was going to come eventually. They also had their also well-known VR projects,
Fallout and Doom.
Yeah.
See, this is what's interesting is that Doom, the original game that we just got, could not function properly in VR, which is what made me a bit worried.
Yeah.
But it's smart that they're actually kind of making its own thing. Like Doom VFR is not Doom in VR. It is its own game with a different character, different plot line, and I have no idea how it's going to work. People have been saying it works. It feels great, which is interesting because like it's using the teleporting mechanic and it's a fast-paced game. How is that going to translate? But hey, if they manage to make that work, then it opens the door for other possibilities. Whereas Fallout 4 is entirely in VR. It's the same game, just a VR mode. And that begs so many questions. Like, and I've seen a lot of these questions on the internet as well. Like, melee combat. How is melee combat going to work? Does it matter how hard you swing? How does that work? Aiming. Do you get iron sights? How is that going to work? But for me, actually, the thing I'm the most interested in is seeing how picking up like environmental objects works, because there's always been a physics engine running with these Bethesda games where you can pick up random objects and throw them around. So do we just get to pick up anything we want now and throw them, or how is that aspect going to work? And I'm really curious to see. Someone else brought up also that if we're going to be customizing our armor, are we going to be able to see any of it? Because it's going to undoubtedly be first person.
Yeah.
So does it matter? Because we saw in the gameplay, we just had the Pip-Boy and the gun. So we don't even see our armor. So the aesthetics of the armor are completely lost then in VR?
I guess so. I mean, unless there's probably like a camera mode you can activate or whatever to look around.
Or if you can analyze stuff and like look at it, oh, that'd be so cool. Oh, okay, that's just what I need.
But yeah, for actual like gameplay, you probably won't be able to do third person stuff. But hey, if the rest of it works well, then that's a small sacrifice, you know. And again, like I said with the Skyrim, this is a chance to really show a full-fledged game being in VR and working. So if it works out, then it can kind of be like the signal to other developers, like, hey, we can make this work. Let's make the next big AAA game also fully VR compatible. You know?
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, where they're going next to this. We're going to get Dishonored, Prey?
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be pretty cool. What else we got? Quake Champions. I mean, nothing too surprising there. It's just sort of their venture into the MLG territory and trying to make a big competitive community for
and also
game.
a callback to competitive shooters of old,
Of course,
the 90s, original Quake and
Unreal Tournament.
And all that, which, yeah, I mean, if they can pull it off and get the feel of it right and everything, that can definitely be a big hit with a lot of old school shooter fans who are fed up of regenerating health and iron sights and all that stuff.
Yep, and I think that just leaves us with one more game in Bethesda's library, which was Wolfenstein 2, which we can discuss.
Yeah.
Because there's also the trading card game, but I don't know. I personally don't have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, there's not much to say on that.
It's just like a Hearthstone.
Yeah, so you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's not gonna change anything.
What we saw is how it is. There's nothing left to know about it.
It's a card game.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
Whereas Wolfenstein 2, it's been rumored for a while, but I was a bit concerned that how are they gonna keep it original? Because Wolfenstein 1 was really fresh when it came out because it revitalized the shooter a little bit in the way that it worked, but I was thinking, how is that? They can't just do that again. That's not a kind of game that would just be good again if they just did the same thing. And I think with the things that we saw that they're changing are the things they need to change to keep it fresh, like the new fancy pants guns that they're showing, like dual-wielding energy weapons, having it in the States, like a change of pace, change of scenery. That wheelchair segment looked pretty badass too, it's. Which I have to say, I think this is... No, I haven't seen many people talk about this, but I find it really funny that BJ, in the first game, he's, in a coma for I don't know how many years.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's like... Well, he's not in a coma, he's like a vegetable. But then he just instantaneously can get up and start firing guns. In, Wolfenstein 2, he survives, a grenade blast or an explosion, and then now he's in a wheelchair. Now he's like, oh, I can't get up. That's really what's stopping him this time. He needs time to recover this time, but the other time, no. 15 years of no movement wasn't enough to stop him. Either way, the story looks interesting. There's a guy tripping on acid. There's a pregnant woman stabbing people.
Yeah.
I'm sold. I don't know. Those two games, even though they were a bit predictable, I have to say they totally sold me on them. And
yeah, it was a predictable but still a good showing.
The gameplay was tight. They showed good gameplay. It got me interested, and that's all I think they needed to do. Of course, it would have been nice if they showed off some unexpected thing.
Yeah, like an Elder Scrolls 6 announcement. Or...
I'm not even expecting that for a long time.
I know.
I would have liked a new IP, though.
One of those two new IPs that they keep talking about but not show, They gotta show it eventually, right?
Yeah, next time we see anything, or unless we get it just randomly dropped throughout the year. But yeah, I think that's all of Bethesda. I just want to quickly talk about Devolver.
Okay.
So I have no idea whether we're going to see Devolver show up at E3 again after this, which was
I think they've left their mark.
It was like a skit
parody,
but they did show some gameplay.
Yeah.
It was such a weird experience. I was watching it, thinking, oh man, I missed Devolver's conference. Put it up on YouTube, and I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah.
I mean, we did see a bit of Ruiner, which is the game I actually really care about that Devolver's working on, and it looks great. But there's really not much else to see at this point. It's just a top-down game. One interesting thing that I think a lot of people have overlooked, though, is that I was reading an AMA between from the guys who directed the show, and they were talking about how a lot of it was meant to be not gameplay, but nods to what they're actually going to be releasing. Even though it didn't look like gameplay, we only saw gameplay really for Ruiner and Serious Sam's Bogus Detour, but there were a few moments where they kind of showed something, and I feel like people overlooked it. They showed a couple of seconds of Absolver, their fighting game, and whatever, that didn't matter so much. But for example, they showed when they were showing off that feature, type instant when you comment something and then the developers make it right away.
Yeah.
That feature, they actually did. They weren't joking. The guys what? No one reacted. We actually were announcing the fact that you can now dual wield guns in Enter the Gungeon, which is a small little addition, but you know what? It was real. It wasn't just there as a joke.
Yeah. And
because they said that, my imagination is going a little wild, and they showed Suda51, that the famous developer. I was thinking, does that mean? Well, because he has a Hotline Miami thing behind him, does that mean he's making the next Hotline Miami? Because if that's the case, then holy hell, sign me up, because I love Hotline Miami, I love Suda51, and they're both really weird, and having them together would just make sense to me. So, I'd love to see more head explosions and more people firing weapons and cutting off their hands on stage.
Getting arms eaten by computers.
Yeah, I want to see Devolver come back, because it's kind of a nice intermission between serious shows like EA's and Microsoft's.
It was a nice change of pace, even if it was quite unexpected.
Oh, absolutely. Anyways, I think that totally covers everything.
Yeah, I'll wrap up that, and we'll check back for our final thoughts. Yeah.